The funny part was I'd written out a speech and I had my son hang on to it. He was young at the time. And when I went to get up, I forgot to get my speech from him. So,
welcome to Hockey Culture. This is the place where we try to change the culture of hockey, one interview at a time. And we've got a real special guest joining us today. We've got 5-time Stanley Cup champ, Hockey Hall of Famer, Grant Fuhr. Grant, welcome.
Hey, my pleasure to be there. How are you?
I'm doing well. I see that you're enjoying some time in the links out there. How's the weather out there?
You know what? Today's actually pretty nice. We're about mid-70s, maybe low 70s, so it's a pretty good way to spend winter.
I'm a little jealous. We have several inches of snow behind me, so I'm just thinking that I'm sitting next to you on the golf course when we're having this conversation. I want to take it back to your draft. Victoria Cougars selected the first round, 8th overall. What was that experience like?
You know what? It was actually pretty cool. I mean, when I went to Victoria, I had no expectations of even getting drafted. So to go in the first round and lucky enough to actually get to move home. And I'm from Edmonton, so to go back to Edmonton, it was actually a pretty special deal.
And those teams in Victoria, you guys had a high-flying offensive team. Did that prepare you for things to come as you went to Edmonton?
You know what? I think it was a great preparation. I mean, we played a similar style to it where we tried to outscore other teams. So when I got to Edmonton, stepping right in, I was actually pretty comfortable with that system.
And what was it like playing in Edmonton with all those future Hall of Famers? Yari Curry, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky.
Nobody really realized how good we were going to be. We just went out and had fun every day. I mean, we liked being at the rink. We enjoyed each other's company. We went out to have fun. It just happened that we had a lot of success while we were having fun.
Did you ever talk within the room? Like, you guys never discussed how great your team was and how great the players were?
No, we just enjoyed going to the rink and having a good time while we were playing. It was not something we ever worried about. I mean, yeah, we liked winning. We enjoyed winning. And with winning came more fun. So I think that was the biggest thing.
What do you think has been the biggest highlight in your career? I mean, 7-time All-Star. You won 5 cups, Canada Cup. What do you think when you look back, it was your favorite accomplishment?
I think all the friends I met in the game. I think that's the biggest thing I've gotten out of the game is I've got lifelong friends all over the world. So, I mean, yeah, the accomplishments are fun and everything, but it's the relationships that I enjoy the most.
And did you have any situations where you felt that being a player of color, you were treating it differently? I know growing up, that wasn't an issue when you brought up in Spruce Grove, Alberta, out in Western Canada, and you had the benefit of playing behind a mask. Did your teammates insulate you at all during any situation, maybe off the ice, that you felt uncomfortable?
You know what? I was pretty insulated in Edmonton. 1, we were having a lot of success. 2, we had a lot of great guys. So there I was fairly insulated. I didn't really run into anything until I got traded to Buffalo. And that was really my first kind of a real eye-opening experience. But again, I had great teammates that made it a lot easier than it probably could have been.
I mean, people always say that athletes and people have a lot of money, you live a blessed life. But at least I talk to my friends about this stuff, and I said, listen, I'm still a black man. So it's not like I'm walking around with my jersey on 24/7. I mean, what was that experience like when you went to Buffalo and you tried to join this golf course that all your teammates and the Sabres organization people were a part of, and they said, no, you can't play. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's because that you were black.
You know, for me, it was a real eye-opener. I mean, at that time, it was, 94-ish, give or take. And you think the world had changed by that point. But it was a big surprise. But at the same time, it was easier just to go join another golf club. I mean, I think that was the biggest thing is that you just want to be the bigger person and move on where you can go somewhere where you're accepted and where you wanted.
Now, did you look at that and say to yourself, okay, this is happening to me. I'm going to make sure moving forward, it's not going to affect the way I deal with people going to another golf course. Like you said, you're going to move on to a different golf course. Were you a little bit skeptical when you joined that second golf course that the same reaction might happen?
No, they were very welcoming right out of the gate. I mean, I was hoping it was just a one-off, but at the same time, it was something that I was going to make a point of making sure that society tries to progress a little bit. I mean, what are we now, 2021, and we're still taking steps backwards. And that's the unfortunate part of what's going on in society right now.
I had several issues, contract time, when I was playing. I thought there was unconscious bias that was involved in that. I remember back in '89, you famously retired due to your contract battles there with Edmonton. I know that the owner there was notorious, pretty cheap. Didn't want to pay his star players. Did you ever think that the color of your skin could have impacted some of those negotiations?
No, I mean, it kind of happened to everybody in Edmonton. Koff went through it. I think the only guy that didn't go through it was Gretz. So I know Mess went through it. So it was an equal opportunity time to be not good during contract time. So that's just, and we knew it going in that's just the way Glenn and Peter were. So we were having a success, so you didn't mind taking a little bit less to play there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think you're a little bit ahead of your time too. We see all these ads on helmets, and I believe back in '89, you thought about putting Pepsi logos on your pads.
You know what? I was going to do that for the All-Star game. The league got wind of it, and they kind of frowned on me a little bit over that one.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when you're going to see players with logos on their pads, like what you thought about doing?
You know what? At some point, it's going to happen. I mean, you got to look at teams. They're trying to find marketing dollars all over the place. And I thought it was going to be a great way to fill up the pocket a little bit, get a little extra money, and have some fun advertising at the same time. So I can see that happening at some point. You
helped revolutionize the game when you're talking about the goaltending position. You were super athletic, and then eventually your game evolved. Is that because you started to learn the league and your experience helped you not have to rely on that athleticism which you used when you first broke in the league?
When I first started, I didn't read the game very well. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a learning process. At that time, we didn't have goalie coaches, so you kind of learned on your own. And as I got older and played more, I learned to read the game better. And as you read the game better, you don't have to be as quick because you're not in as much of a scrambly position. You're in better position and you can anticipate a little bit better. So yeah, as I got older, it calmed things down a little bit.
And who do you think helped you the most? You said there was no goalie coaches back then. Who did you lean on, or who would help you going through these tough stretches to help you with your game?
You know what? I was pretty lucky. I had Ronnie Lowe my first year as a partner, and then I had Andy Moog, and then I had Billy Ranford. So I've always had good partners. And you're competing for the same job, but at the same time, we tried to help each other. So having them around made me a better goalie.
And did you guys ever talk about your offensive prowess too? You led the league the 1 year with 14 assists, your third all time with points from goaltenders. I believe you got 46. I know a lot of guys that go a whole year without getting any points. Did you guys ever joke about that at all in the room?
With a couple of the guys I used to have a little bet with Semank as to who would get more points. I think I was leading Marty 1 year for about 3/4 of the year. So we gave some of the guys a hard time about having a few points.
What about players like Charlie Huddy? Charlie was one of our coaches when I was in Edmonton. I know he was a tremendous stay-at-home defenseman. Any battles with him about who's going to lead the team in scoring between the two of you?
No, Charlie was pretty good. He got to play with Koff, so you knew he was going to have his 40 or 50 points every year. The funny part was Charlie and I would worry about playing defense, and everybody else was doing offense. So we didn't really worry about points at that point.
Speaking of offense and defense, you won one Vezina trophy over the course of your career. And I thought, maybe I'm a little biased, I thought you're the best netminder for a span of 10 years in the National Hockey League. Why do you think that was that you only won the one Vezina?
You know what? I wasn't really worried about it. And obviously, it's all about team success. So the fact that we got 5 cups in that 10 years tells me enough that apparently I must have made enough saves to make a difference. So that's all that matters.
And then near the end of your career, you had black teammates, Freddie Brathwaite and Jerome McGinley. Both those players. I know Freddie B. I've known Freddie for a long time. He's looked up to you as being someone that he's had a poster of growing up in his bedroom. Tell me about that experience playing with 2 players that saw you as being their idol when they're growing up playing minor hockey.
Well, you know what? They were both great guys. I'll tell you a little story about Freddie. When I first got traded to Calgary, I got in, where were we playing? I think we were playing in Phoenix. And I got in on a late flight again about 11 o'clock at night. And I walked in the room and he's got cheeseburgers sitting there. He's like, I heard at night you like to have a cheeseburger. So he'd already ordered room service for me and everything. But no, we became good friends. And I've known Jerome since he was probably 4 or 5 years old. So, I mean, it's great to see what he's accomplished.
How did that relationship develop, you and Jerome?
I actually played baseball for his grandpa. So at that time, Jerome was our bat boy.
No way. No way.
That's how old I am.
Wow. Jerome, he would play for the national team, baseball player. People forget that he was a heck of a baseball player. He probably could have played professional baseball also.
Oh no, he's a great baseball player. So, I mean, he's just a talented athlete.
And when you've had all the success that you've had, inevitably people make documentaries about you, making Coco. What was that experience like making that documentary? Were you kind of nervous about putting all your business out there like that?
You know what? It took him probably a year and a half to convince me to do it. I mean, it's different to see your life on film than it is to just live it. But at the same time, to live it a second time was obviously a lot of fun because you know what the ending is. I think that was the easiest part, is I knew what the final outcome was going to be. So that makes it a lot easier.
Was it hard? I mean, hockey players are notorious about not wanting to talk about themselves. Was it hard for them to keep trying to pull that information out of you? And once it came out, would it start to flow, or do you still find it difficult? Because it's even hard for me now to get you to talk about yourself. I mean, you're 5-time Stanley Cup champ, for crying out loud.
Well, I'm kind of a quiet person I'm not really big on the accolades or anything. So it was harder than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at all the great people I was surrounded with and how lucky I was. Yeah, it's hard to sit and talk about yourself when you got such a good group.
What was it like then putting together the Hall of Fame speech? Because that was the one time you get to thank people and really, put a bow on your career. What was it like first getting that phone call and then trying to get that speech together?
The funny part was I'd written out a speech and I had my son hang on to it. He was young at the time. And when I went to get up, I forgot to get my speech from him. So my Hall of Fame speech was just off the top of my head and from the heart. It's the best thing I could do at that time without having a mad panic attack.
It's the greatest game in the world. I mean, I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm more happy that I can give back to it. And it's special. Thank you.
Were you nervous?
Terrified, actually. That's probably the most I've ever sweated, just having to stand up and talk in front of people. But at the same time, I think the biggest panic of it was you wanted to make sure that you thanked everybody. And not having the list in front of me, trying to run through it in your head. By the time it's over, you don't even realize what you've said.
Now, you fast forward to today, and the game is doing a lot of amazing things with making the game more welcoming to people of color, to women. You're an important voice. I know you're not very public facing with a lot of things. I know you spend most of your time on the golf course, but your voice matters with these conversations. What's your take on what's happening within the game and where the game is going?
I think the game's getting better. I mean, I think there's still a lot more that we can do to get the game out in front of different kids, in front of the minorities, in front of the less fortunate. And I think the NHL plays a big part in that, where we've got to expand the program to expose the game to kids, because that's how the game's going to grow.
And if you had a young child, black player that wanted to be a goaltender, and his parents said, "Hey, Grant, my child wants to be a goaltender. Can you give him any advice?" What advice would you give that child?
I would tell him to believe in himself. That's the biggest thing that you can do as a kid, especially as a goalie, because you're going to have people that are down on you. One day you're great, one day you're a goat. So that's the fun of it all. And that's the fun of being a goalie, is you make a difference every day, but you've got to trust and believe in yourself.
And where did you learn that attitude? Was it something that you acquired over time, or did your parents pass that attitude down to you?
No, I got that from my parents, that the biggest thing you can do is have belief in yourself and never let anybody tell you you can't do it.
So how important were your parents in your success then? Let's end with that. I mean, my parents meant everything to me, with supporting me, and they still do to this day. Speak about the importance of your parents and their involvement with your life and your success.
You know what? They were everything, especially as a kid. I mean, they were the ones that sacrificed so that I could play. They shuttled me to rinks 7 days a week. They'd give up something to make sure I had good equipment. So yeah, they were a huge part of everything that I've become.
Well, Grant, it's amazing. I want to thank you for joining us today on Hockey Culture. Like I said, 5-time Stanley Cup champ, 7-time All-Star, Vezina Trophy. I mean, I don't have enough time to talk about all your accolades. And most importantly, Hall of Famer. Thank you. As a former Oiler, I was like a huge fan of yours also. I wanted to be Grant Fuhr when I was a kid. The goaltending equipment was way too expensive, so I wasn't a goalie. I ended up being a player, but I want to thank you and say I appreciate everything you did and you accomplished as an NHL player.
It's my pleasure, AC. Hopefully I get to run into you soon, live and in person.
Absolutely. I hope so too. Stay safe. Thank you.
You as well. Take care.